Hey everybody, it's Mrs. C and I am here with another video, this time one that's come at a major request from all of you guys out there to do a little video to show you how to write an equation in standard form, slope, intercept. The directions actually, if you take a look at them, the directions are saying to write the equation of the line in standard form. But for all of you out there that haven't yet gotten to standard form, I'm going to do it in y-intercept first, slope-intercept, and then for those of you that have done standard, we're going to take it one step further and put it in standard form. So for those of you that haven't gotten there yet, once I get to slope-intercept, just go ahead and fast forward to the next problem. So let's just jump right in. It's write the equation of the line in standard form that satisfies the given conditions. Number one, we're going to do slope. Is 2/3. The y-intercept is 3. So let's just go ahead and get rid of all of this other stuff. Well, maybe I can do it a little bit faster. I should pause, but I don't know if I feel like it. Here we go. All right. So when you are given a slope and an intercept, the best form to use to write an equation of a line is absolutely the slope-intercept form, the slope-intercept form. And so go ahead and tell me what that slope-intercept form is. Yes, it is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. So if I know that my slope is the m, and I know that my y-intercept is the b, it's as easy as writing y is equal to 2/3 x minus 3. Now, easy for those of you who are just following the directions to write in slope-intercept, except these directions are going to go one step further. So for those of you that are not ready, you just go ahead and move on forward. For the rest of us, oops, I didn't think that through, did I? For the rest of us, we're going to put this in standard form. So let's just undo what I just did. Sorry, guys. I'll get a little bit better at that. Whee! Alrighty. So how would we put this in standard form? What's wrong with it? Well, there's a couple things wrong with it. Number one, if you're in slope-intercept form, oh, why don't I just rewrite it? If you're in slope-intercept form, like this, your x is not with you, your y. So we have to fix that. It was 2/3 x minus 3, I hope. If it wasn't, we're going to put this one in standard form. Your x term needs to be over with the y. And the other really big issue, and to me, is that there's a fraction. And when I move my x, it's going to be another issue because my x is going to be negative. So how do we get rid of a fraction? Multiply by the denominator. Absolutely. That's just going to make it a little bit easier to work with anyway. So we have a 3y equal to 2x minus 9. Now the last step, not quite the last step, but the second to last step, we're going to minus our 2x. Now our x is with our y. That's awesome. I'm going to come over here, guys. Negative 2x plus 3y equals negative 9. And the issue isn't the 9 being negative. The issue is the 2 is negative. My coefficient of x, my x term, has to be positive. And so in order to undo that, I'm just changing everybody's sign to the opposite, which is the result of dividing or multiplying by a negative. You can go ahead and show that step. I am in a hurry. There's our final answer. We have a 2x minus 3y equals 9. That's my standard form. Nice job. Now, these are the easiest, and you can probably tell why they're the easiest. The reason they're the easiest is because they give you the slope and they give you the y-intercept, and they don't always all do that. So, where are you, number 2? No, that's number 3. Number 2, there you are. It's kind of like scratching off a lottery ticket. Not that I do that, because I always lose, but it is similar. Okay, so here's the deal. Slightly more involved, not harder, but more involved, because it gives you the slope, but tells you that you pass through a point. So what form would I use if they give me a slope and a point? A slope and a point. Would I use slope intercept? Well, I could, and many of you do, and rock on with that. But if they give you the slope and they give you the point, I like to use point slope form. So point slope form goes like this. I'm going to write it up at the top. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1, where x1 and y1 are the ordered pair that you are given. Now, when we use this form, we need to sub in the y1, the x1, and the m. And in this case, we have all that information. We have y minus, what's my y1? A negative 5. And that's equal to the slope, which is a negative 4, times the quantity of x minus, and that's a 2. All I have to do is simplify, evaluate, plug and chug, whatever we want to call it. Let's get her done. And there we go. So I have a y plus 5 equals a negative 4x plus 8. Some of you are forgetting this back multiplying, this back distributive. That's a silly goose mistake. We know we're supposed to distribute both terms. So don't make that little mistake. It's just not being careless. Don't be careless. All right, last step. See, I love point slope because I'm almost in slope intercept. So I'm going to go ahead and minus my 5, and I'm done. I'm trying to find a place that I can actually write my answer. I'm out of space on the bottom. Don't use an eraser to erase. All these things you got to remember. Okay, what is my answer? Y equals negative 4x, and that's going to be plus what? Positive 8, negative 5 is I almost gave away the answer. Positive 3. Now, this video is not asking you to identify the slope and the y-intercept because it's old stuff, but let's just do it anyway. The slope is a negative 4. My line is going down, and my intercept is at positive 3. So there's information we can get out of this to help us, and then we could go forward and we could graph. Okay. Now, if I was to do this in standard form, those of you that are just in slope intercept right now, please feel free to move on. But for those of us that need to do standard form, we're going to take it one step further, right? We have y is equal to a negative 4x plus 3, and in slope intercept in standard form, my x has to be over. So I'm going to plus my 4x, and I'm done. Right? Easy breezy. I really have come to like point slope form. I think it's a really nice form to get to the other forms. And there she blows. We have 4x plus y equals 3. That's the standard form. All right, let's move on. That was number 2. And I know I'm erasing my directions. Oh my goodness. Okay. Now, where are you, number 3? How good am I? I'm pretty good. Okay. So here's the question for number 3. Here's what we're supposed to do. We have a slope of a 3/4, and we pass through negative 2, negative 3. So I start with my point slope form. Y minus y1 equals x times the quantity of x minus x. Did you catch me? I was thinking of something else. I'm sorry. M times the quantity of x minus x1. My mind squirreled a little bit there. All right, I'm going to sub in my 3/4. Do it with a different color. I'm going to sub in my 3/4 here. And I'm going to do my y1 is 3. And my x1 is a negative 2. All right. To do it this way is to just avoid forgetting the minus that's already there. So what you do is you just throw the points on top of your work, it's a little messy, but less chance that you're going to screw up when you plug in the values. So I double check my slope is 3/4, and my x term is with my x's at -2, and my y is 3. Excellent. So now let's just copy that pretty. Y is equal to 3, no, y minus 3 is equal to 3/4 x, right? I'm going to distribute times, now we have to do 3/4 times 2. And here's where some of you get a little bit confused. So I'm going to come down here and just go over the beauties of multiplying fractions again, I believe I have to do. What is 3/4 times 2? Because that's what we're having to do in this back distributive step. We have to do 3/4 times x and then 3/4 times 2. Well, you were taught back in the day that a whole number is the same as the whole number over 1. And then you were taught on another day that multiplying fractions, you multiply the numerator to the numerator, the denominator to the denominator. And I actually, instead of canceling, some of you guys are going to cancel 2 into 2, 1, 2 into 4, 2. That's going to give me 3 times 1 is 3, and 2 times 1 is 2. It's going to give me 3/2. And if I put 3/2 up here, you may notice that my denominators are not going to be the same, a 4 and a 2. And I like to get rid of denominators, so I never simplify in this process step. Now, fear not, my younglings, if you did not follow what I just did, don't worry about it. I'll go over it in more detail with you. If this is what you don't understand, then we know what we need to work on is the point slope form when your slope is a fraction. But for now, just go ahead. Most of you do it anyway. Your 5th grade teachers would cringe, but you don't simplify. You just multiply across and you get a 6, and you multiply across and you get a 4, and that actually is better for us because it's going to make things a little bit easier. Now, the reason it makes things a little bit easier is because many of us, including myself, don't like to work with fractions. And one way we can get rid of fractions, we've talked about it in class before, is to multiply by the denominator. In this case, the denominator is 4. See, in this case, the denominator is the same. They're both 4s. It makes it easier for me to cancel them out. If they were different, I'd have to multiply by the least common multiple. See, a little bit more complicated. So I'm just going to multiply both sides by 4. Now, just watch. You can rewind this if I lose you, but I don't think I will. Distribute, right? So 4 times y is 4y, no fraction. 4 times a -3 is a -12, no fraction. 4 times 3/4 x is actually 3x. See, this 4 and this 4 will cancel out. 4 into 4, 1, 4 into 4, 1. So all we are left with is the 3 and the x. Now we do it again, and we say 6/4 times 4 over 1, and again these 4's cancel out, and it leaves me with a 6. Leaves me with the numerator. If you multiply by the denominator, you're left with the numerator. So now we have no fractions anywhere. And it's a pretty straightforward approach to get it into whatever form you want it in. It's actually easier right now, maybe to, I don't know, easier to get it into slope-intercept or standard. I'm going to follow the yellow brick road and get it into slope-intercept. That was the first thing I said we would do. Now, guys, that the direction said standard. So let me just say, I wouldn't be doing this. If the direction said standard, I would be, oh yes I would. I would be moving my 12 over and then moving my 3x. Okay, so forget what I just said. Rewind and pretend I never said that. And then this is going to be 18. Last step to divide by 4. Oh, I'm talking so much. I hope I didn't screw this up. My last step, divide by 4, my answer is, well, y is equal to 3/4 x plus 18 over 4. You know, it'd be better if we simplified. 2 into 4, 2. 2 into that 9 to 9/2. Some of you might be thinking, am I allowed to have a y-intercept that's a fraction? Of course you are. And that's what it is. Now, for those of you, sorry, I'm cheating this process a little bit because I'm out of space on my computer. So if I could just try to clean that up a little bit. Make it look like that. Okay. Now, for those of us that need to put it in standard form, I am actually going to back us up in our process. So again, for those of you that are not doing the standard form, just go ahead and move on to the next problem. All right, for those of us doing standard, I'm going to bring it back up to here and work it back again. I would still add the 12, absolutely, and I would still get an 18. But now, what I would do is I would minus the 3x over here. Now, because I cancel those out. I'm going to cancel them out with getting rid of them, right? What's left? Here we are. These are the players that are left. Don't you love a nice whiteboard? Negative 3x plus 4y equals 18. And what's the only problem? You got it. We can't have a negative on the x. So we're going to change u to a plus, change u to a minus, and u to a minus, and then I'm done. 3x minus 4y equals negative 18. And that is the answer. Ta-da. By the way, if I screwed any of this up, you will let me know, correct? Of course you will. Okay. Now, going on to I think it was my last problem. Many of you have gotten to the point that you are asked to write the equation of the line, but you're not given the slope. You're not even given the slope. You're given 2 points. And you're asked to write the equation of the line that contains those 2 points. Not even a slope to work with. Well, you can find the slope. That's kind of your job. So let's do it. We'll jump in. We'll do the slope. We'll use the slope formula. For those of you that use the arrow method, I'll show that to you too. That way the ones that don't use the arrow method can have a little exposure to that. And so we begin with the formula, which you should know, so I'm not going to write that down. So is m is equal to, I'll say it, we've got the, it's really hard for me to say it, y2 minus the y1 over the x2 minus the x1. And I do a real quick double check, the back to the back, 9 minus 7, the front to the front, the back to the front, to the front of the good. Okay, now we're left with what is that, a 2 over a negative 9. Yes, ooh, I was not being very nice to you, was I? Well, I made the points up, so it's a negative 2/9. That's what you get. Now for those of you that are like, what's an arrow method? Well, it's a kind of a cute little trick. Let me show it to you. It is, you take the points, and I'm going to have to rewrite them because I don't have a lot of room. And those of us that use the arrow method are very passionate about it because it's a really cool when you draw an arrow and you copy the point. See? Bring that point under this one. Then you change the signs of the point you just moved. Crucial step. Then you combine the first column and the second column. So you combine a 6 and a 3, that's 9. And you combine a 7 and a negative 9, which is a negative 2. Then you bring this one under this one, and look what you got, your slope. So for those of you who are like, whoa, why didn't you show me the arrow method before, Mrs. Crusoe? Well, because it's not the proper method, it's a trick. And your high school teachers, most of them, wouldn't use it. So I don't want to teach you a method that's going to be, not going to be one that you're going to see a lot. And, you know, that's really the main reason. I use the arrow method, just saying. Okay, so I'm going to use point slope or slope intercept. I'm going to stick with point slope. And here's the fun part. In point slope, you're given a slope, right? And you're given a point. It's not called the points slope form. It's called the point slope form. And so you have an opportunity of picking either of the points that they give you. If they give you more points, you can pick any of them, because all of the points lie on this line I'm trying to write. Anyway, you get to pick any point. That's the point. Which point do you pick? Well, you pick the one that works the best with the slope you have. Now, in this case, normally it doesn't matter, but when I have a fraction slope, I want to pick an x value, because remember when I plug this in, there's going to be an x next to it. So I'm going to have to times that x, which is going to be one of these guys. So one of these guys is going to probably work a little bit better with the other one. It doesn't look like any of them are going to totally fix it, but at least maybe they'll, I don't know. I help simplify the fraction a little bit. So it's just me. I always look at my slope to decide which would have been the better one to pick. So it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it matters. It makes the problem a little easier if they cancel out. It's just a lot of talk for nothing, because nothing's going to cancel out. So let's just jump into it. I am going to go with, actually ordinarily, even though this would simplify, it's really not going to help much, but they are smaller numbers. Even though one of them is negative, I'm just going to go with that one. So the formula, point slope again, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. We plug in our values, and here we go. We wind up with y, and this is my x. This is my x, and this is my y1s. Okay, so my y1 is 9, so minus 9. I have a slope of a negative 2/9, times x minus a negative 3. Don't forget, when you're in the middle of all this craziness, to do the doubles. Okay, now I've got everything I need, so I'm going to be able to erase this bottom portion so I have more space. Now you got to distribute. Got to get this taken care of. So we have y minus 9 equals a negative 2/9 x. And remember I said don't simplify. I know it's hard not to sometimes. But then we have a negative 2/9. That's going to be negative. And then top to top, 2 times 3 is 6. 9 times 1 is 9. And now, because I didn't do anything, I have the same denominator, so everything's awesome. Doing something wouldn't have changed that, so whatever. Now, how do you get rid of the fraction? You multiply by the denominator. So let's do it. Times by 9, and let's rock it. We have, going back to a brighter color, that's a very dark color, 9y minus 9 times 9 is 81 equals, we have the 9 canceling that 9 out. We have a negative 2x. And we have the 9 canceling that 9 out. We have a minus 6. Isn't that wonderful? Now, for standard form, we just have to swap the 2x and the 81. And for slope-intercept form, a little bit more work. So for standard form, we're going to add the 2x to both sides. So I'm just going to do that for everybody. Those of you that have ignored it, not listened to us, just close your ears, don't listen for a minute. We're going to put this in standard form. It's going to be plus 2x, and then it's going to be plus 81. And then we're going to wind up combining the 81 and the 6, and that's going to be a 75. And that's going to be our standard form. 2x plus 9y equals 75. And man, you guys out there, if I'm making any mistakes, because I'm just barely double checking here. If I'm making any mistakes, you're in big trouble if you don't catch me and tell me what I did. That looks to be, in my opinion, the proper standard form. 2x plus 9y equals 75. Now, I am going to go back up for those babies out there that did not yet get to standard form. And we're just going to write it in slope-intercept from where it was, which is, oh, forget it. I can't. I'm going to have to take it back to here. Okay. We have a 9y. I have to rewrite it. Minus the 81 equals the negative 2x minus 6. Okay. Now, guys, what I'm going to do is still move the 81 over, right? Absolutely. I'm going to erase. It's gone. I canceled it out. And then I'm going to combine my negative 6 and a positive 81. You know what that is? We already did it before. It's a 75. It's a positive 75, I hope. And Now, last step is to divide by 9. Divide everybody by 9, and I'm done. So I get y equals, because that canceled out, I get a negative 2/9 x, which we usually write like that, 2/9 x, plus 75/9. I can't do anything to 75/9. 75/9 is a tough one to graph on a graph if you don't know where 75/9 is. 9 goes into 75 about how many times? Well, 9 times 8, 72, right? And 9 times 9 is 81. So it's about 8 whole and a little extra. So it's somewhere between 8 and 9 on the y-axis. And that's the reason, it's the only thing you would have to do if you have improper fraction. So that is the slope-intercept form, my loves, as long as I haven't made a mistake. But since your job, many of you are going to be watching this in class and then seeing me later, you'll be able to tell me if I did anything wrong. And that was the whole page. If we go back, I don't want to clear the whole page, I just want to erase back to the directions. That was everything. Now, it's not a practice, guys. This activity was just to give you insight as to how the process to follow for each different type of problem. Ones that have fractions, ones that don't, ones that give you points and no slope, ones that give you a slope and a point, ones that give you the slope and the y-intercept. It's to give you an idea of how to do everything. It's a long video, and it probably took up most of your single period. So now the fun begins with finding the practice. Go and find more practice. Work in your groups to practice each different skill. Again, if you have not made it into the Unit 3 Part 2 and you're not yet doing Unit 3 Part 2, you don't need to write things in standard form. So you're only writing in slope-intercept form. And in fact, if you're only in Part 2, you don't need to do, in Part 1, excuse me, you don't need to do these. You only need to be able to do number 1. So if you're still getting ready for Unit 3, Part 1, only number 1 applies to you. If you are preparing yourself for Unit 3, Part 2, then you are going to need to do all of this and a little bit more parallel and perpendicular as well. All right, guys, I hope this was insightful. Let me know if there are any mistakes. Very important that you let me know so that I can make those changes. And as always, I'll see you later, and that's going to be on the flip side. Peace.